Every year, Vegas gives every team a win total, and you gotta pick the over or the under. Last week, we looked at the teams that blew away that number. That link is down below. Now, let's look at the teams that came nowhere near it. Before we make fun of Vegas for getting all these teams wrong, let's give them a little credit. They nailed 2 teams. I talked about one of those teams in the last video. Let's talk about the other one today. The Boston Red Sox, projected for 78.5, won 78. Vegas didn't exactly go out on a limb here. They won 78 games in 2022. They thought they would do it again, and sure enough, they did. Last year, they were a very good offensive team, 4th best in the American League, but they had JD Martinez and Xander Bogaerts, and they left the team before 2023. Even without them, they scored 37 more runs this year, but they slipped to 6th place. Tristan Casas and Masataka Yoshida gave them awesome rookie years, and 38-year-old Justin Turner was a very good addition. Their pitching was bad in 2022, second to last in the American League, and it was almost identical this year. That was only 5th worst in the league this year. That just shows you how many more runs were scored this year. The Red Sox seem to be stuck right now, a weird spot for them to be in, a few games under 500. We have a tie at number 5 at 11.5 games, the Yankees and the Padres. Both teams were projected for 93.5 and both teams won 82. That isn't the only thing these teams had in common. They were also supposed to play in the World Series, according to me, but that didn't happen. I made separate videos for both these teams, going over why this season didn't work out for them. Both teams made the League Championship Series in 2022. They got key pieces to get even better for 2023, but they both got much worse. For the Padres, it wasn't really about underperforming. It was about failing to win every close game that came their way. They lost their first 12 extra inning games. They only won 9 out of 32 one-run games, and that offset their 6th ranked offense and their 2nd ranked pitching. Based on run differential, they should have won 92 games, not 82, and that would have landed them in the number 1 wildcard spot. Instead, they missed the playoffs entirely. For the Yankees, it was all about injuries. Carlos Rodon was their big addition over the offseason, but he missed the first 3 months, and when he came back, he just wasn't right. Nestor Cortez was dominant last year, but he was only able to make 12 starts this year, and he doubled his ERA. Aaron Judge was actually great when he played, but he missed 56 games, mainly due to crashing into the bullpen fence at Dodger Stadium. They had a bottom 3rd offense and a below-average pitching staff, the opposite of the Padres, and they had a negative run differential. They were lucky to win 82 games, they should have only won 78. Funny thing about both teams, they got dominant performances from their aces. Blake Snell and Garrett Cole running away with the Cy Young Awards. That wasn't enough to offset the rest of their teams. Number 4, Kansas City Royals, 13.5 games, projected for 69.5, 156. This team won 65 games last year, and that was actually a step back from the 74 they won in 2021. That's not good for a team that's been rebuilding since 2018. Vegas didn't think they'd be worse. They actually gave them about 4 more wins, but for the 2nd straight year, they dropped 9 games from the year prior. All year, the Royals were battling the A's for the worst record in baseball, and even though they beat the A's, they still tied the 2005 team for the worst record in franchise history. Even with Bobby Witt's amazing sophomore season, hitting 30 homers and stealing 49 bags, the offense was number 10 in the American League. That was a 36-run improvement over last year. The pitching last year was dead last, a 4.70 ERA, and they got worse. They weren't the worst in the league anymore, but that ERA jumped almost a half a run to over 5. Brady Singer's ERA spiked by over 2 runs. Zach Greinke's was up by a run and a half. Jordan Lyles brought a 4.42 ERA from Baltimore, and that exploded to 6.28. This rebuild has been going on for a long time, and it's going in the wrong direction. Hopefully, they finally bottomed out, and they're on their way back up. Number 3, New York Mets, 16.5 games, projected for 91.5, 175. I did not like this team before the season. DeGrom could never stay on the mound, but he was gone. So was Chris Bassett, so was Taijuan Walker. They did sign Justin Verlander, but I felt the Mets were putting way too much on a pair of aces that were pushing 40, Verlander and Scherzer. Also, during the World Baseball Classic, they lost Edwin Diaz for the year. In a very tough NL East, I thought that could be the difference between a wildcard spot and missing the playoffs entirely. I never would have thought the team that won 101 games last year would be 12 games under 500 this year. They absolutely clicked last year. 3rd in offense, 3rd in pitching, and this year it didn't work out. 11th in offense, 9th in pitching. Verlander and Scherzer pitched alright, but they were both traded at the deadline. Jose Quintana was good also, but he only put in 13 starts. This was all despite Kodai Senga's amazing rookie year, posting a 2.98 ERA. They were clinging to a 500 record in June, but after they lost 19 of their 26 games that month, It was over and the team got torn apart. Number 2, St. Louis Cardinals, 17.5 games, projected for 88.5, 171. This year was just beyond belief for the Cardinals. While some of their older players were on their way out, Pujols came back for a year and he was gone. Molina ended his amazing 19-year career, and now Wainwright finished off his 200-win career. There was a new guard waiting in the wings. Guys like Lars Nootbaar, Nolan Gorman, Brendan Donovan, Alec Burleson, Jordan Walker, Dylan Carlson. Those guys were coming up and set to be the new core of the future. It wasn't just young guys. They had the reigning MVP in Paul Goldschmidt, perennial all-star Nolan Arenado, and to replace Molina, one of the best catchers in baseball coming over from the Cubs, Wilson Contreras. They had already made the playoffs 4 years in a row, and their 93-win season in 2022 was their best yet. There was no reason to think they wouldn't win the Central once again. But then the season started and they found themselves winning only 10 of the first 34 games. Everyone expected them to figure it out, but they never did. They were over 500 for only 2 months, 2 games over in May and 1 game over in July. The rest of the months, they were underwater, only winning 8 games in July, and they were sellers at the deadline. No more Jordan Montgomery, Jack Flaherty, Jordan Hicks. Arenado and Goldschmidt were good, but weren't the MVP level like they had been. Also, they missed Albert Pujols. That offense went from number 3 to number 10. Their pitching was also pretty bad, going from 4th best to 4th worst. Miles Mikolas seeing his ERA go up a run and a half, and Adam Wainwright's almost exactly doubling from 371 to 740. It was a season to forget for the Cardinals, their worst since 1990, and we'll see if they can come back as contenders in 2024. Number 1, Chicago White Sox, 21.5 games, projected for 82.5, 161. Starting in 2020, it appeared the White Sox had turned a corner. They made the playoffs that year. They ran away with the Central in 2021, and they only got better going into 2022. They were frustrating all year, staying in the race but winding up with a 500 record. Everyone had to make a choice. Would the White Sox rebound, chalk up the 2022 season as a fluke, and go back to being the class of the AL Central, or would they continue their downfall? Vegas didn't know what to do. They had them being about a 500 team once again. I saw them lose Jose Abreu in free agency. They didn't have Liam Hendricks as he battled cancer, so I had them at 75 wins, just 6 fewer than 2022. Well, it was an unmitigated disaster. They fell 20 games back of their already disappointing 2022 season, finishing 61 and 101, their worst season since 1948. They scored 45 less runs than last year, dropping to second to last in the league in offense. Luis Robert was awesome. Andrew Vaughn and Eloy Jimenez were just okay. Jake Berger was good, but he got traded to Miami. The rest of this team was just bad at the plate. They missed the production of Jose Abreu, bringing on Andrew Benintendi, but he played well below average. Their team ERA jumped by almost a full run, from 8th place to 13th. Dylan Cease seeing his personal ERA more than double. Michael Kopech saw his ERA balloon by almost 2 full runs. Lance Lynn went up a run and a half. And Lucas Giolito was actually having a good year before being traded to the Angels. The bullpen posted the exact ERA as a starting rotation, 488. If this team decides to go into a rebuild, it's hard to believe it would be worse than this. That's all I have for this video. Let me know if you have any thoughts on these teams, and if you want to see the teams that blew past our expectations, click the card in the end screen. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and want to see more content like this, please give me a sub. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.